Her name is Feyre, fairest of them all.
Feyre, fairest of them all. Hot flame, hot. Make hot. Beauty.
Okay, Feyre McSizzlinghotbeauty. That's her name.
You're listening to Getting Fae'd. We,
Lukas,
Lea,
and Meike are reading A Court of Thorns and Roses for the very first time. Today we're discussing chapters 7 and 8. Get Fae'd with us! Woo! So, how was your reading experience?
Nice.
I really liked it this time. I got hooked.
Yeah, me
even
too.
more.
The last chapter, the last 2 chapters left me off a bit disappointed, but now I think I'm hooked again.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite what I expected. I think I expected more plot,
Drama.
more drama, but instead I liked it in a different way than I expected. It was fun to read, fun character dynamics going on.
In the end of chapter 8, I had a revelation for myself. I don't think it was actually a revelation in the plot, really, but I'm 100% sold on it right now. We will get to it later. But now I have a completely different view on everything.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So you think you unraveled a big plot twist, or you have a big prediction?
It's not actually something new, but I'm more sold on it now.
Okay.
That sounds
I
interesting.
think we will get to this in an hour.
Yes,
Probably.
stay tuned.
Well, I got so excited about the book that I thought maybe a different layer to this podcast could be fun. So I started...
But we already have a Lea.
Funny. No, so I started listening to the audiobook. Or well, they call it like dramatized audio version or something like that. And I wasn't sold on it, so I gave it back.
Oh, wow.
I thought like the idea of having different voice actors tell the story in like a cinematic way, and they have background music and actual like Foley sounds, which sounded really cool. But I don't know. I don't want to draw shade on the voice actors, but they kind of used stereotypes for their voices. If that
okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Lucian spoke like a slimy, arrogant person, like you would expect them to talk. Like he was, oh, Feyre, no. And I was just like, I don't like that. I thought it could be fun, especially if we wanted to talk about the chapter in a podcast. I thought maybe listening to it would maybe set it into my brain a bit more, but I gave the book back. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Audible, you're not making money with me today.
no recommendation on your part.
No, sorry.
So you'd rather the people just listen to this podcast as an alternative for an audiobook, because we go so into the details, you don't even have to read the book.
Totally.
Nice.
Also, I started rereading the Throne of Glass series because I kind of got into a Sarah J. Maas mood again. And as I said, it's been like 11 years since I read the series. And I wanted to get back into it. Maybe I can catch some Easter eggs or something that like draws a parallel to the story and maybe opens up new things. And I think there is something happening that I didn't caught the last time. Ooh. But I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just reading way too much into this. I mean, Throne of Glass came before this series.
Is it something you can share with us without spoiling anything?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I will when the time on this podcast is right.
Okay.
It will be this episode.
I'm relieved now.
So are you ready to dive in?
I'm sorry.
Let's go.
Okay, so last chapter we left off Feyre cleaning herself up after her long ride to not the wall, but the mansion. And now she like meets with the 2 Fae again. They apparently are done eating, and now they're having a nice little dessert wine. And Feyre is simping over everything. She like admires the plates and the silverware and the goblets and how attractive and amazing looking those Fae are. And she's just hyped with wealth.
She's hyped and also kind of disgusted at the same time.
Yeah.
I think she talks a lot about, oh wow, this blade could buy my family a horse and I'm just eating from it.
But I also feel like she's always coming back to compare the high fae and the wealth to her family. And I feel like on the one hand, it's an easy tool to emphasize the enormous wealth that is there. But on the other hand, I feel like it tells us something about her.
She also feels very insecure because of everything, because of her appearance and of that she like isn't used to wealth and has no manners in quotation marks. And she even, I think she says, for them, we'll always be the wild beasts, even though they have a beast form. And then I wondered, do you think Fae think in like, oh, you have beastly behavior or something like that? Because they have a beastly form and they probably know that not all beasts are like lesser beings.
I feel like they're not that focused on the beast thing, but they do look down, at least some of them, Lucian.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Look down on the humans. But I do think it's kind of funny because the tables have turned, and before Feyre was like, oh, these uncivilized, beastly beings, and now these people that she notices are not so uncivilized look down on her and the mortals and are like, oh, what kind of uncivilized beings are you guys?
They are both pretty racist towards each other, I feel like.
Prejudice, at least.
Yeah.
Well, we also finally learn Honey's real name.
Ooh.
It's not Hannibal, and disappointingly, it's not Rysand.
It's Tamlin.
Tamlin.
I think he's a lawyer in
What?
Tamlin McGill.
What?
Such a specific joke.
I don't get it.
This is what I want to do on this podcast. I want to throw out specific references in the hopes that some Better Call Saul fan who's listening to this podcast will go, ha, I got that reference.
Okay.
In Better Call Saul, there's a law firm called Hamlin and Hamlin.
Hamlin, McGill.
Oh, yeah, right.
Two
Hamlin,
McGill. One
McGill.
McGill.
I felt like the name Tamlin was familiar to me.
I did too, and I found out why.
Really? Because I didn't find out. I tried to Google it, but I was very careful not to spoil myself. And I found that it's from Scottish folklore, something.
I feel like I've heard of it before. I don't really know where, but maybe in school or something.
I didn't.
Yeah, I read about this folklore thing, and it kind of felt familiar. So Tamlin,
Yes.
like it's two names. Tamlin, not written like it is here, but Tamlin was this man kidnapped by a fairy queen because the story is actually kind of funny. He like rode through the forest and he fell off his horse and she caught him. And because she caught him and saved his life, she was like, oh, you're going to live with me now. And then he roams the forest and collects what the story calls possessions or virginity.
I mean,
Okay.
sure.
Of the people like going through the forest, which is, well, problematic to say the least, but that's not the focus of this podcast. He collects possessions or virginity. And he meets this girl. She's usually called Jane in the stories. And they fall in love after she gets pregnant in some stories and variations. Which once again, cool, sure. But well, they're in love. So
Sure.
they're in love. And he like asks her to save him from this fairy queen, which apparently he doesn't like being enslaved to. And they devise a plan in which he will ride with other fairies through the forest and he will fall again on purpose. And this time Jane will catch him.
Ah, sneaky.
And then she will, I don't know, have to say about him. I don't know. She will
That's
be allowed to
such
take
a
him.
sitcom
Well,
plot.
but it's going on. He also tells her that the other fairy knights will make it harder for her to catch him because they will turn him into different beasts.
Aha.
So she cannot easily catch him, but he assures her that he will not harm her in whatever form he is. And then I think it ends with him like turning into coal and she drops him into a well and then like he comes out of it, but that's not important. The important part is that he lives in fairyland, is enslaved to a queen and can turn into beasts. Sounds familiar.
I see what you did there, Sarah J. Maas.
So there might be some even more powerful queen somewhere?
Yeah, I wondered.
Or is Feyre the queen?
Will he
The
be enslaved to
seventh
Feyre?
queen.
Maybe. Or maybe
Who's
not.
Feyre in this story? Is she Janet or is she the queen? But yeah, it kind of sounds like she at least got inspired there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
for
we
sure.
will see if she drew any other inspiration from this story. How do you feel about the name overall?
I think it's okay.
It's not complicated.
It's not
I like
complicated,
that.
that's true.
And it sounds kind of playful. Tamlin, it sounds a little bit like tumbling.
You're right.
And it sounds kind, somewhat. It fits the gold vibe, I feel like.
Yeah, and it sounds very fantasy. It fits into a fantasy world.
It's a good name.
Yeah, it's a good name. I like it. Much more than Lucian.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say Tamlin is especially kind in this chapter.
No.
But it's kind of funny how he fails at compliments.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he tries to compliment Feyre in a somewhat casual conversation when she joins the table. And they even talk about hobbies, so he's really trying to keep it casual. And then he's like, "You're clean." How nice of him. I think he says your hair is clean, doesn't he?
Yes.
And your hair is clean.
I just wrote down, bro.
Tamlin's got no rizz.
I interpreted it as Tamlin trying to flirt a little bit.
I think so too.
And I was like, bro, you're just, I mean,
yeah, and
wow.
Feyre's inner monologue reaction is just comedy gold. She says, "Perhaps it was my raging hunger making me hallucinate the piss-poor attempt at flattery."
That is actually funny,
yeah,
yes.
and that's what I meant. This book is just funny now. It's not really suspenseful what's going on, but it makes me laugh. I'm having a good time.
It was a very casual chapter in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but I enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. It was not so gloomy.
But I'm not sure if he was actually trying to flirt, because Lucian makes fun of how his flirtation attempts have gotten rusty over the years, or even decades, he says. And that kind of sounds like he knows Tamlin well enough that he's sure Tamlin wasn't flirting and he's making fun of him.
Huh.
Just to mock him and annoy him.
I mean, with my knowledge now, having read both chapters, I also do not think he was flirting. But I read it as Lucian just being an asshole. And I mean, Lucian tries to push Tamlin to build up some sort of positive relationship between them, but he's also an asshole while doing that, and he's using the word females, and I immediately got the ick when somebody uses that word to describe women. Immediate bad.
Red flag.
Yes.
Yeah, but overall the situation is just super awkward because she has been kidnapped by Tamlin. And she has killed Tamlin's friend.
Yes.
So I wouldn't want to sit on that table.
That's true.
It's super awkward.
It's so weird. No one really talks about the elephant in the room in that moment. Yeah. They all just sit there and are like, huh.
Yeah.
Hi.
They're so do you have any hobbies? And Feyre's like, don't you immortal high fae have anything better to do with your lives?
Yes.
Which I also thought.
I felt that was so based.
Well, but the whole conversation is even kind of fan fiction-esque, I felt. Especially when they start talking about if she doesn't have a partner somewhere. This whole situation, those are two very powerful fae beings. And they have nothing else to do than sit down and mock someone they just kidnapped. It just felt so out of, like in those fan fictions where the mafia boss captures the innocent main character and then he falls for her by just sitting with her and listening to her stories and telling her stuff, and then he gets jealous that she has a friend at home. and it just felt like that.
Yeah, you're right.
It was weird.
Yeah.
He seems, he's supposed to seem like this powerful, age-old being, and he's just weird.
But because it is so out of place, I feel like there must be something behind there, a plan or a reason why.
I think so too.
A reason why they have to like each other or get on and get close to each other or something.
I'm just gonna throw my prediction out there that I have. Mm-hmm. I think that maybe Tamlin will be the bad guy of the whole book series. Maybe I think they will fall for each other, or at least Feyre will think she falls for him and that he falls for her, but he has some exterior motives that I can't quite put my finger on right now, but I don't know, the vibes are just off. Maybe
I like that.
They will have a romance and then he will reveal his master plan and maybe even tries to get Feyre on his side, and then she's like, nope, that's not a good thing, and then she runs off and joins Rysand to strike him in the next book.
Rysand strikes back.
He's just so nice while being very indifferent at the same time. there has to be something else to him, because the fact that he even goes the length to care for her family, it just feels so calculated. Like he's making sure that she has to stay, because if she ever came back, he wouldn't care for her family anymore. So she has nothing else to do. She can't run off, because if she runs off, her family will be poor again, and they probably wouldn't even be happy to see her again.
Yeah.
I like this. Tamlin is going to be the villain theory, and I like it a lot better than my prediction, because I thought maybe he didn't actually want to have revenge, but the societal norms of the Fae force him to act upon the treaty breach. So he chose the path of least resistance and least violence. But if he hadn't had done that, there would have been conflicts with other factions or courts, and they would have done something to her. And I mean, he says that if he hadn't captured her or something, then others might have come. So
that part is funny, because he mentions, if it wasn't for me, someone else would have come, and I don't know what they would have done to you. I wonder, like, Andras, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
He lived in his mansion. He was probably part of his court or whatever. We don't really know yet what Tamlin is.
Yes.
Andras was like part of his whatever. So can anyone claim Feyre? Like, can any Fae go to any human that killed a Fae and be like, oh, I'm gonna make you pay. I'm the one that will make you pay.
And does every Fae in Prythian know if one human killed one Fae?
Yeah. Maybe they
That
have
felt
like
weird.
a Fae radio station that just broadcasts, okay, they're in the mortal lands, and then the coordinates of Feyre. Tamlin just got her because he was closest to the border, being in Springcourt.
Maybe.
This whole fanfic conversation then concludes in Tamlin telling Feyre that she is way too insignificant for them to care about her, so she can do whatever she wants. And Feyre is very pissed about being called insignificant, which I thought was
true.
funny.
Yeah.
I think she's just so used to knowing that she is the one people have to rely on, and that she is the one keeping everything together, that Tamlin calling her insignificant to her face really broke something in her.
Yeah. But I also don't think that's true.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I mean, he says it to her, so do you think this whole can Fae lie, does it still apply or not?
There's this one moment when he tells her, I won't break my promise to you. Like when he says he won't kill her.
Yeah.
And just the wording that he says I won't instead of I can't. Because he is, bound to promises because he can't lie. I was very intrigued in that. I was like, oh, why isn't he saying I can't break my promise?
And how is a lie defined? I mean, we have Lucian doing some sarcastic remarks, and
thinking about the same thing.
Is that a lie? He's like, yeah, and we also steal your children at night and replace them with cuckoo's children.
So either there's actually some sort of truth in that, or this not lying policy recognizes irony, the meaning behind it.
I mean, that's something you can do in a soft magic system.
Yeah.
But
It's just magic.
But also, I feel like if you live for decades in a world where you can't lie, you get really good at just telling half-truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Feyre finally decides to eat, but not really out of her free will. So it says, I wasn't going to get up from this table until I'd eaten something. So Tamlin holds her in place with magic and just frees her arms so that she would eat. And I feel like we have to unpack this because
It's a lot.
This is a major red flag. It's incredibly uncomfortable for me to read this, but I feel like this is quite a common fantasy, especially in fan fiction. I've read it in connection a lot with dehydration, and I feel like there's a fantasy behind there where there is a violence that actually shows the deep-seated affection of the other person.
I think it has something to do with them caring about you more than you even care about yourself.
Yes.
Which people tend to find hot. But
Yeah.
the way it's executed is just...
It's highly problematic.
This is something that is in media often played as romantic, while ignoring the fact that violence out of affection is still violence and is
Yes.
still
Yeah.
not okay.
And in this case, Feyre is not eating, not just because she doesn't want to, because, I don't know, she's super depressed or something. She's not eating because she's scared that the food might turn her into whatever, a brainless slave or something.
Yeah.
And him just forcing her to eat, it just feels so wrong.
And what I felt was even more horrible was then when he dictates when she has to stop eating.
Yes.
I was like, wow, bro, come on. Not even bro, I was just disgusted.
Yeah.
I annotated it with patronizing S, because that's what he is.
Fitting.
Yeah.
He's so controlling.
Yeah, and that also shows that there has to be some further motive behind his actions. Because if he really didn't care, he wouldn't care if she starved to death.
That's why I like your theory that he might be the villain, because I was really disappointed about the direction this was heading. And if he is going to be the villain, then I can hate him for this.
At this point, I'm going to be mad if he's not the villain. If he's just a nice love interest for the rest of the series.
If that turns into like an actual romance, it's just wrong.
Yeah. Well, benefit of the doubt. We will just keep on reading this book and see how it turns out.
Yeah. Did you guys catch when he tells her, don't worry, the food is not enchanted? And he says, the food is not enchanted. And when she's done eating, Lucien is like, won't you stay for some more wine?
No, I didn't catch that, but I like your
I was very
observation.
concerned.
The wine is mentioned before. Like, the first time she sets foot in this mansion, it's described that Tamlin, or Honey as we called him back then, drank the wine as if he needed it. So it's like, either he's just an alcoholic or there's some deeper meaning behind it.
Yeah, she didn't drink wine yet.
You're right, yeah.
No,
I
she
didn't catch
didn't.
that.
She had food, but she didn't drink wine.
Nice. So this whole time, Lucien is incredibly full of himself. And his ego just can't take that Feyre, as a human woman, doesn't immediately fall head over heels for him. And he just felt like this unpleasant alpha bro. And I was just like, Lucien, come on. I did not like that.
No, it's kind of absurd how every person in this book is not cool. We didn't like Nesta and Elaine and her father, and now we don't like Tamlin and Isaac. Tamlin, I think I meant to say the only person we like is Isaac, so he was already in my brain. But yeah, no.
Tamlin is secretly
and
Isaac.
now we don't like Tamlin and Lucien. The only person we like is Isaac.
But
and maybe
don't you
Feyre.
remember how fast we changed our mind about Nesta?
Yeah, that's
And
She
you're
worked
forgetting-
herself into our heart.
And you're forgetting Mahogany.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We
Right.
love Mahogany.
We love her. Yeah, you're right.
But these are all people that are not present in this book anymore.
I mean, I think Mahogany was mentioned twice. I mean, she was thinking about Mahogany once when she thought about escaping. And then she mentioned to Tamlin at some point, I met this mercenary who told me this and that. So twice.
Yes, you're right.
Yes.
She's still with us.
Yeah. I also think about Mahogany a lot in my life.
Same.
So after not having wine, Feyre apparently goes to bed because the next section of the chapter starts in the morning when Feyre wakes up to just stare at the ceiling.
As one
I
does.
guess, as one does. And I think it's lying there that she finally notices how sad her situation is, because I think this whole time she's been, clinging to this hope of coming home at some point and making her way back. And now that Tamlin is caring for her family, she knows this is gone too. And she has no other choice than to stay, because she also knows that Prythian will probably be very dangerous for her.
Yeah, I think she dismisses the hope to flee immediately. But she's keeping her wits about her, as Alice had recommended earlier. And she built a trap.
That's the next sitcom part in this chapter, I felt like. Suddenly her alarm goes off, her little DIY alarm that she built out of like the curtains and strapped them to the door so anyone coming would make a noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and poor Alice gets just hit in the face with it.
I just loved her reaction. What in the bottomless depths of the cauldron is? And I feel like there's so much in there because the cauldron is
It's
mentioned
world building again.
Yeah. And
What
I
is
want to
it?
know more.
What is
I
the
love
cauldron?
when fantasy books have their own sayings.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
someone in our world probably would say, what the fuck is this? Or, oh
what
my
the
God,
hell?
what's happening? What the hell? And, saying, oh, what the hell is actually a good example, because we would say hell, and maybe she's using cauldron as like an equivalent for hell in this world.
A deep hole.
But yeah, I came to the decision that I like Alice.
She's fun.
Yeah, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful Alice-Feyre friendship.
Fayless.
I feel that's an often used trope, isn't it? Like someone forced to live somewhere they're not entirely happy, and they have a servant or like a maid that is very nice to them and kind of helps them adjust and get around. But I like Alice too. She's very straightforward, and she reminds Feyre that she is also a fairy and that she could knock her ass. And that's fun. But while saying it, she doesn't feel very aggressive or something. She just feels very sincere about it. Like she's like, I'm a fairy and I could knock your ass, so remember that and don't get on my wrong side. We yet encounter another fanfiction moment when she sits in front of the mirror. I think this is just such a basic thing for your main character to sit in front of the mirror and rethink about their appearance.
I felt like it was quite late for a physical description,
so I forgave her. It felt okay in this moment because it wasn't in the first chapter.
But it was also like, I don't like the way I look, but I'm also not ugly.
Yeah, she's like, if it wasn't for me being poor and starving, I would be hot.
I felt like she didn't like the way she looked because she looks like people she doesn't like.
Yeah, she says she has a relatively straight nose, resembling her mother, her father's soft mouth, sharp cheekbones and hollow cheeks, probably coming from years of not eating.
Yes.
And slightly up-tilted eyes, like Nestor does. Also like her mother.
But a soft mouth is something that a lot of people have.
I was just thinking that. I was like, no, there might be an explanation.
She inherited more features from her mother, so maybe she just wants to find something in herself that resembles her father, and she's still not his child.
I also feel like a soft mouth is not very specific.
I will not let my theory go. She has
Actually,
Fae blood.
what does that mean?
A soft mouth?
Yeah.
Maybe round, maybe not a stern mouth, where you press your lips together.
I don't know. Kissable.
Maybe slightly... maybe slightly up-tilted lips, so it looks like you're smiling even when you're not, or something like that.
Probably full lips also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's every female main character ever where she's like, yeah, I could look good, but I don't feel like I look good, so they can still cast someone hot.
She has this weird moment where she's like, I would have lived up to my namesake were it not for the effects of poverty. And I wondered, does she mean, like, is her namesake fair?
Or Fae.
Yes, I didn't know what she meant.
That's
Did she
true.
mean I would have looked fair if it wasn't for poverty? Because fair is spelled very differently to her name. And for her to be like, my name is Feyre, that sounds like fair. So my name means I'm hot.
Or it's fairer, like I'm fairer than you. So even more beautiful.
Or maybe she means her last name, if she has one, like a family name.
Very beautiful.
Do we know if she has a last name?
We don't know if she does. I mean, her family comes from money, and maybe her family is known for being hot.
Sure.
Maybe that's what she meant.
Her name is Feyre, fairest of them all.
Feyre, fairest of them all, hot flame, hot. Make hot beauty.
Okay, Feyre McSizzlinghotbeauty. That's her name.
Feyre McSizzlinghotbeauty.
Nice. Sounds like a noble family.
Having finished staring at herself, she then has nothing else to do because she has no duties anymore, and so she goes to the garden. Mm-hmm. But before she arrives there, she marvels at this still life hanging in one of the hallways, which was kind of funny.
She has a fangirling moment of all the paintings in this hallway.
Yeah, I still don't really know what to do with these moments when she describes something as particularly artful. I just read it and go like, she is artsy. I don't take anything from them.
She even described the morning sky with periwinkle, pumpkin, and what was the third color she used?
Those could be names for people.
Oh, yeah.
Morning sky make beautifully.
She described the morning sky with words like periwinkle, pumpkin, and magenta. And it just feels like no one would use periwinkle and pumpkin to describe colors. I mean, there are colors, but you would just go orange.
I think what Sarah J. Maas is trying to tell us with these moments is just Feyre as an artsy person finally being in an artsy world. So maybe that's just here she can live her creative and artsy side, and maybe that's so slowly coming to realize that she might find an actual home someday in Prythian.
Maybe Tamlin will let her paint his cupboards and tables and whatever.
Doesn't she say somewhere, like when they talk about her hobbies, that she goes like, I'm not gonna tell them about my drawing skills because they're just gonna laugh or something.
I feel like she was right. Lucian would have just made fun of her. If she went like, oh, I like to draw, he would be like, ha ha. Well, then draw me, Nikki.
Meike.
I feel like at some point Tamlin and Feyre will have a hot pottery scene where he like teaches her how to make pots.
Maybe they will have a hot drawing scene where they draw on each other.
She will probably draw him at some point.
Yeah, and
I feel like every character in a YA book that is able to draws the main dude at some point, and then they find the drawing and look at it and feel so loved.
Draw me like one of your French phrases.
A French Fae? Do you mean rizz?
I almost said French fries.
I think the reason for why those moments feel so out of context, kind of, is because Feyre does not have a big developed personality yet. She's just grumpy Feyre who likes to hunt because she has to, and also would like to draw if she didn't have to hunt.
True. But maybe, do you think when this happens, where the main character is so, I'm gonna say bland, does that happen so that you can picture yourself as them?
I think so. I think that's common in fantasy books. I mean, can you think of any fantasy franchise where the main character is the most interesting person? I can't.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Not really.
I think your question is valid, but I also feel like this happens a lot with female protagonists.
It also comes with the first-person narrator, I think.
Yes.
Because if you have a third-person narrator, you can have like little nuances in how like the character behaves explained. You can just be like, oh, entering the room, Feyre lets her eyes sweep over the paintings and she smiles a bit. Or like she touches an engraving in the cupboard and you're like, oh yeah, that's because she likes art. But having your first-person narrator, it would just feel weird if she went, oh, I touched this and I looked at this because I liked it. So she does leave that out and we just kind of miss those moments, I think. That's why I don't like the first-person narrator.
Yeah. I also like third-person narration more.
Me too.
Maybe as a kid it's easier. Maybe because you want the I to be you. The hero to be you.
I feel like it's a tool to get you closer to the thoughts of these characters. But I also feel like you can write from the perspective of a character and still write in the third person.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
I mean, I guess it's better than just writing Y/N all the time.
Jesus.
So after admiring the still life, she makes it to the garden, where Tamlin once again forces himself on her and gives her a tour of the garden, even though she says, no, thank you, no, multiple times.
What a kind man.
Really lovable.
And then she's not only admiring the paintings or the garden, she also starts explicitly admiring Tamlin.
Yes.
She says, I couldn't ignore the sheer male beauty of that strong jaw, the richness of his golden tan skin. He was probably handsome if he ever took off that mask.
I love that she's not appreciating Tamlin's beauty, but the beauty of his jaw. And I feel like when I was 16, I also appreciated the beauty of Jaws.
But she's not 16.
Nope.
She's 19, which we find out a little bit later.
She's of age.
Thankfully.
But I still feel it's like weird that she appreciates the jaw.
The word, the maleness of
the male beauty, yeah.
The male beauty, yeah. It's, what?
But I think it's because in the English language, you usually don't use beautiful to describe male-coded character or people.
That's true, but I don't know. Male beauty of no.
It's strange. I mean, you could say that she's not really falling for him yet, but just she's objectively describing him as beautiful. But then again, why would that be in the book if it shouldn't be the start of like a romance?
Yeah.
There are a lot of hyacinths in the garden, and I'm usually not the type to put a lot of like meaning into flowers you see in stories, but since it's the second time she mentions hyacinths, because Elaine has a little garden and grows them, I wondered if there's a meaning behind it. And I mean, hyacinths are very meaningful flowers, I'd say, just because there's a lot of like mythological stuff about them, which I know because one, I read Percy Jackson and all the books that come with it, also the Apollo series, and Apollo and hyacinths come together. Also because I once wrote a character for a short film that was named after hyacinths, and I made the effort to create this character after the meaning of hyacinths. But they are very interesting flowers because in the Greek mythology, the god of the west wind, I think it is, he falls in love with a guy named Hyacinthos, and he is in love with Apollo instead. And because of jealousy, the god of the west wind kills Hyacinthos. And Apollo, devastated of the death, turns him into a flower, which is then known as the hyacinth. And
turns whom into a flower?
The dead guy.
Okay.
Not the west wind.
The west wind god. Those flowers stand for like jealousy and sorrow and loss and all that.
And for love triangle, which we love to see in YA books.
Also for a love triangle. Yeah, I was about to say that. If it's like foreshadowing that she will be in love with someone else and then someone will be jealous, maybe Tamlin, or Tamlin is the one she's in love with, I don't know. And then there will be drama.
Yeah, and what we know of Tamlin now, he feels like a guy that would try to kill Feyre for loving someone else.
Yeah.
I see that happening.
That would be an interesting plot point for her to like die in book 2.
I said he tries
and then come
to kill
back
her.
as a flower.
POV of a flower.
And then she grows in Elaine's garden.
The end.
She finally comes home again.
And then her father rips her out and goes, "Don't come back here," and throws her away.
So yeah, as I said, I don't usually like to put so many thoughts into flowers, but since it kind of has like a known and bigger meaning, I thought it might be interesting.
Well, yeah. He also asks if Feyre has a problem with him. And I was just like, man, you've abducted this woman. He says like, I'm not going to kill you. And I'm like, gee, thanks. In that case, you're going to be my best friend. Like, these men don't have any conception of the situation that they have put Feyre in.
He lacks emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
But both of them, Lucian and Tamlin,
They are above this all.
they are absolutely oblivious.
But now Feyre finally asks some questions.
Yes.
She asks him why he is so generous, and he tells her that he has killed enough as it is, which interesting take. I mean,
Good reason.
thanks for
Yeah.
sparing her then. Yeah, nice. What does he usually kill? And who?
Chicken. I've killed enough in my lifetime.
Oh,
No.
that's why there are no other animals on his in his mansion.
No, but it's an interesting question because who did he kill? Was it other Fae or was it other humans? Does he just run around and kill humans?
Stab, stab, stab.
I mean, he says that the treaty doesn't stop Fae from killing humans, doesn't he? It just stops them from enslaving them.
Yeah.
I feel like they must have had very bad negotiations if that was the only thing the treaty protects immortals from. I was like, when I read this, I was thinking like, wow, why is this so bad? I mean, we hear that there's this promise that they made 500 years ago, but if we find out these promises aren't even that important to Fae, I mean, that would also shatter Feyre's worldview if these mortals have replaced their religion with this promise, and the Fae are like, promises, schmomises, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also one interesting moment where I was very proud of Lea again. Tamlin says, I have no interests in mortal lands, though I can't speak for my kind.
Dum, dum, dum.
Inner conflict brewing. That's your prediction. And maybe, like, we don't know how far this conflict is. Maybe it's a full-on civil war going on right now. And maybe that's why he killed all those people, or Fae.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm glad that we have some plot and some, like, big picture story dropped.
Yeah, I mean, Tamlin is telling us about a big thing going on.
Yes.
It's the Blight.
The Blight.
The Blight.
Pretty cool name, I think.
Yeah.
So he tells Feyre that magic has gone a bit strange. And since 50 years ago...
49
years ago, sickness came over the lands, which made magic act strangely.
And weakened magic.
Yeah. He says his powers are not as strong as they used to be.
Yes.
What powers? We don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty powerful as it is.
True.
Yeah, he can hold her in place and make her sleep for 2 days.
Yeah, so if that's
his
the
weakened state. Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah. So this search of the Blight also resulted in the masks being stuck on their faces, which is kind of fun.
Yes.
Like they just had a masquerade and this magic thing came and glued the masks to their faces.
That's
I was
funny.
I was thinking, can they actually take them off but immediately turn into a beast, or are they just glued on? Because that would be hilarious and a little bit stupid, but funny.
It's funny that like probably not every Fae was at that party, so there's a lot of Fae not having masks stuck to their faces, and then a few little poor souls.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. What exactly is this masquerade? Was it just a small party?
I mean,
It
the
was probably a
servants were
big
there.
party.
Yeah, the servants were there, or was
But
it like...
maybe they
Probably as
servants
servants.
served.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Servants all wear birds' masks, as Feyre describes. So they probably had like a uniform consisting of a bird's mask.
Just imagine you have to wear your work uniform the whole day, every day, for the rest of your life. But yeah, Feyre asks if the Blight might spread to mortals, and Tamlin says there is a chance that it might, but I'm questioning if this is the truth, because I always forget that they are supposed to not be able to lie. But then again, he hesitates before he speaks of that chance, so maybe there is an even bigger chance that it won't affect the mortals, but maybe there is a 0.001% chance that it might affect them. So he says like, there might be a chance.
Unspecific half-truths.
Yeah.
Also, that mask thing happened roughly 50 years ago, and we also learned that that's about the time when fairy attacks increased in the mortal
you're
lands.
right. I didn't even think about that.
And we also learned that this sickness is also the reason that Andros was sent over the border.
Yeah.
Apparently, allegedly, so he could look for a cure.
Yeah.
Where do you think he could find a cure in the mortal lands?
Mahogany Tooth's leg.
Maybe he was sent there to find a powerful seventh queen, so she can cure the illness.
Maybe, yeah. One thing I thought was funny is that Feyre asks, like, you don't have a mask when you're a beast? And he goes, the Blight is cruel like that. And I wondered, does he not like his beast form? It feels pretty practical. Does he not like being a cool feline-wolf-elk thing?
I mean, it doesn't have thumbs. That's a downgrade.
But it has fangs and claws.
That's
and
true.
Can run pretty fast. And I don't know. If you can change into a being that has thumbs later on, I would take the beast.
Yeah, I feel like I can't really relate to having to wear a mask for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it's a little bit dramatic. Like the way he talks about it and the way Feyre thinks about it. It's like, oh no, the tragic. They're kept in their masks and they always have to hide their face. I'm like, yeah, it's probably not that great, but...
I think like the being a beast thing would be very bad in like our world where no one else is a beast, but they all can relate because everyone is a beast and they can just have their beast society. I mean, they can even talk in their beast form.
Their beast society.
So I think it's not as bad as he thinks it is.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to play a console without thumbs as a beast. So that...
But you can play a console with a mask on your face, so you could just turn into the person again.
That's true.
No, I don't know. Maybe the masks itch terribly and hurt.
Oh no.
But since he doesn't talk about that, I just feel like he now has a mask in his face. And I know, I mean, I cannot imagine that. So it probably sucks, but there are worse things that could happen to you.
Yeah.
I
you
mean,
could actually get sick.
Yeah.
I mean, over the last few years, we saw how much people can overly complain about having to wear a mask.
So here comes the part where I found something in Throne of Glass, or more specifically the second book, Crown of Midnight.
Let's go.
That reminded me of this because I just started Crown of Midnight when I read those chapters. And in Crown of Midnight, in like the main kingdom, or I think the overall world, maybe even, I'm not so sure, magic is gone. And she even, like the main character in the book, she mentions that some of the Fae got stuck in their beast forms when the magic went away. So sounds kind of similar. Maybe they share the same fate. Maybe like both universes or like planets, worlds, whatever, have a problem with magic. And maybe this is just the beginning. Maybe the end of magic could be like a final result, like the end stage of this sickness.
But I feel like that would actually be quite positive for the mortals because there would finally be an even playing field, and so it would make sense that Tamlin goes like, no, this is dangerous for the mortals too, we have to do something about it.
I don't remember the reason why magic is gone in the other series, since it's been so long and I've read so many other books in between. So I have no idea how this could be resolved and what the reason could be. So that's good. I have like a second story inside, but I'm not spoiled. At this point, it kind of reads like they might team up, Tamlin and her, I mean, and, you know, try to find a cure, because that's apparently his goal right now.
Yeah, I feel like that's the objective of the book.
Yes, but I'm on your side, Lukas. I think he must be shady. He can't be the hero of the story.
There's a plot twist coming. I mean, if the whole first book is like she helps Tamlin to find a cure, and then it's revealed that this illness would actually be great for the mortals, and that Tamlin just played her, and she's like, oh no, I brought doom upon the mortals, and then she switches sides.
I think maybe if I was like 14, 15, 16 and wouldn't read someone forcing you to eat as an immediate red flag, I might not be as opposed to Tamlin as I am right now, so him turning on her might actually be a bigger plot twist.
Yeah.
I feel like we shouldn't call him out so soon.
Shouldn't be able to.
Yeah. Our critical thinking took away the plot twist.
Hopefully. So something else happens in the garden, and I don't know if we should even attempt to try and make predictions about that because it was very strange.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I reread this part like 3 times and I was so confused. So Feyre is just standing in the garden and she hears 2 pairs of footsteps coming towards her on gravel. She doesn't see anyone, but then she hears like giggling and sniffing close to her, and she turns around and there's still no one, but then she sees this like silvery light which separates into 2 figures small enough that it barely reaches her waist, and then it vanishes.
Yeah.
What was that?
I have absolutely no idea, except that they seem childish some way.
The giggling.
Yeah, and that they want to play or something. Feyre has the feeling that they want to play.
Maybe they're like spirits. Something that like separated from their human form or something when this blight happened. You know, like Tamlin got his mask stuck and they got stuck in spirit form or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I think maybe they are like secret allies to Feyre. Maybe beings who know that Tamlin is bad and like try to communicate with Feyre while not being seen by Tamlin. But that's just guessed in the blue.
Hopefully we will find out. I feel like there's more to it. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It would be funny if it's just the only mention of these creatures. And then
It's
we
book
just move
5.
on.
Feyre is already a grandma in her, I don't know, fairy queen palace because she now rules this fucking thing. And then she goes like, oh, actually, what were those little things? And then she dies.
Then she turns into one of them and then she visits herself. I don't
Plot
think
twist.
that happens.
The size of them is confusing to me. Like upper waist sounds like a child.
Maybe they're like kobolds or something. Or also a variation of a kobold. Because when I think of a kobold, I don't think of giggling people.
Yeah. Pumuckl,
Yeah.
who's also very small.
Yeah, maybe it's a metaphor for her childlike desire to live in a world full of color and art.
Sure.
We're already in chapter 8 now, right? This happens in chapter 8.
Yes.
So the main thing of this chapter now is that she wants to find a loophole in the treaty to kind of get out of this living forever in Prythian and the mansion.
So first she wants to find allies to help her make her case to Tamlin.
And her pick is Lucian. Of all the people. I mean, she knows 2 people in this
Yeah,
world.
I mean, it's
And
like
he-
the only other guy there.
Yeah, and he actually has Tamlin's ear, as she says. I mean, it's probably better than a servant.
Yeah, Alice wouldn't probably be a good choice. But Lucian just feels very far off yet.
Yeah, it feels
Yeah.
like a task.
Yeah, she's like, I'm just gonna have to make him my friend. And I'm like, sure, go
Yeah,
ahead.
good luck with that.
Do you feel like the 2 of them might already be a love triangle? Like she plays as if she is in love with Lucian to get him to talk to Tamlin, but she actually falls for Tamlin, and then both of them fall for her, and that's the triangle.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, I
I'm
feel
not
like
convinced. But I feel like there might be something going on with Lucian, yes.
I feel
Or
like
will be.
Lucian might actually be the good guy in this situation.
Yeah, I
because
think so too.
He's like set up to be the evil guy who counters Tamlin. Like if Tamlin is evil, then Lucian might turn out to be on Feyre's side.
Both of them will do a 180.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
But he's also an alpha bro.
I don't want any of them to end up with her.
Maybe he
As
does a
of now.
180 and then dies.
But he is kind of attractive looking, in my mind at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's obviously enough for a healthy relationship.
He has a fox mask. He chose the fox mask. We know that the masks are not like an image of themselves, but they put them on because of a masquerade. So he went to a shop and he bought a fox mask because he probably thought, oh, foxes are so cool. And I agree.
Maybe he even made it himself.
He's an artist as well.
Oh, everyone's an artist. Yeah, but because she wants to find a loophole and she wants Lucian to be her ally, she, as for now, decides to stay in Prythian and to drop her plan to, flee the moment chance appears.
But she like steals a knife from dinner and packs an emergency bag in case she has to leave very
Yeah.
quickly.
I felt that was a very abrupt start to the next part. It just starts with, I stole a knife from dinner that night. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, let's go.
Chapter 8 is very uneventful. It's also very short, only like 6 pages. And it felt, in comparison to chapter 7, it felt a bit disappointing again.
Well,
Oh, you have your big...
yes.
Okay.
But we're not quite there yet. Because
Okay.
first, Feyre appreciates that Lucian has a big and pretty sword. And I tried to apply some phallic interpretations upon that.
Oh, my God.
Because, the phallus is often a symbol for potency and power. And Feyre starts to accumulate some power because she now has a butter knife. So she starts working her way up. But I'm questioning, what does that say about Tamlin and his 3 simple knives?
That Lucian is better off.
He has jewels on his sword. So, should we get to the reveal I've had?
Yes,
For
please.
me, myself.
Please, I'm so looking forward to this.
I'm afraid it's another wall moment where you think
okay.
the garden gate is...
I think it's either genius or completely stupid.
I mean...
No, I'm looking forward to this.
It builds on your theory that Feyre has Fae blood. And I read a sentence or a question that Tamlin asks, and I was like, oh, Tamlin is Feyre's father confirmed? ?
Oh, I know what you mean. Yes.
Because he was like, didn't your mother tell you anything about us?
Yes.
And so he hesitates because he's like, why didn't she talk to her mother? And he seems to be affected by her death. So he knew her. And so I think he's her father. And so I hope I'm so convinced about this right now. So after I finished this chapter, I was like, oh my God, this is such a plot twist. I'm so convinced of this. So I hope there's no love triangle going on between them.
Okay, I marked this sentence, or question rather, in my book as well. But then I thought he was just being a bit snarky again. Like, he was like, I don't know, you probably had no education. You really have nothing but someone who tells you something. So I was like, didn't your mother tell you about this?
I see your point that it has a lot to do with the way these words have been spoken, and we don't really know how they have been spoken. Maybe we would have if you had listened to the audiobook. But
now it's my fault.
No, I'm glad you didn't, because then I would know. And I don't want to know. I want to stay with my belief. So I feel like it puts his previous behavior in a different light, because then he wasn't trying to flirt, but just build a positive relationship with his daughter.
Very poorly, but yeah.
Yes. I mean, I still don't like that he tells her when she has to eat and how much she can eat, but it kind of puts the authority toward him because he's her father and he's like, I have to look out for her or something.
His patronizing behavior is because he's actually a patron to her.
Yes.
I think last episode or the episode before, I really wanted the wolf to be her father. Mm-hmm. So in this moment, I was like, I want to read it like he is her father.
I mean, you might still be right that he knew her mother, but that doesn't mean that Tamlin himself has to be a father. Maybe even Andros the wolf is her father, and Tamlin knows the mother because he knows Andros.
Yes, that could be.
Then there can still be a romance between Tamlin and Feyre. Although maybe we will have some weird incest shit.
I mean,
I don't know Sarah J. Maas's writing style. Maybe that's in the books.
Maybe there's some like City of Bones shit where she's like, I'm in love with you. Oh no, but you're my father. What do I do now?
Oh Jesus, please no. But I have to correct something I said before. Mm-hmm. The moment is kind of interruptive in the whole like flow of the chapter, because he goes like, didn't your, and then his voice turns gentle.
Yes.
I think she says his voice turns gentle. Mother tell you about it. So I don't think it was a snarky comment.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been. Not really. Yeah. Maybe it was once again an attempt to be like nice to her, because apparently he knows loss in a way, because his wolf friend died, and also a lot of people have left the mansion. So he probably is used, or he has experienced loss in some way or form. Or he is her dad.
Well, this brings me to my, I don't know if I would call it a prediction or more an idea, but maybe Andros was across the wall to look/spy on Feyre, because I think maybe Feyre is the cure or has something to do with the cure, because 49 years is quite enough time to conceive a child and let that child grow up to be in about her 20s. And yeah, so maybe Andros was reporting back.
Yeah, I also think if Feyre is actually half Fae or full Fae, whatever, it was not an accident or something. It was fully planned.
So you think maybe the cure somehow needs a half Fae, half mortal
Maybe.
Human, person, child. A bridge between the worlds.
Maybe.
The Avatar.
So, Meike, last episode you had this theory of the Kuckuck's child.
Yes, and Lucian full-on calls me out on that one.
yeah, he makes this like sarcastic remark of, yeah, we also put Kuckuck's children in your cradles. But maybe this sarcastic remark was also there to remind us, the reader, that there is like a legend of Kuckuck's children. So so maybe this is foreshadowing.
Because that's what he did to Elaine.
I just want to tell the readers how Lukas looks when he has a theory, because he just talks normally and then he puts his hand up like a wizard and goes on talking like a slightly insane person. And I love it. I probably do the same. It just was a very funny sight to see.
It's just missing the conspiracy board behind me. There you can just snap a picture of me predicting things right now, and then that goes on our Instagram page at Getting Fade Pod, and then people can see it.
Yes, we will do that.
Maybe, I mean, we're making some pretty wild theories here, but have we ever considered that maybe her dad is not even the fairy part of the relationship? Like maybe her mom was a fae and her dad is actually a dad.
While we were talking about it, I was thinking that
maybe she was part of like the court.
Oh, maybe she was sent to the mortal realm to breed a cure.
Yeah, because like 49 years ago, easily travel into the mortal lands, make a mortal man fall in love with you, and then...
Maybe that's why she chose rich family, because she's fae, and fae cannot live without nice things.
Do you think she faked her death? I mean, her mom, like Feyre says, she died of typhus, which probably won't kill a fairy.
Maybe. Or maybe she had to become mortal to conceive children. Like
no, I think she's alive.
That would be so cool, though.
I mean, that's such a fantasy trope.
That's true.
That the parent
Dead
who
parent
is
coming
dead
back.
is actually alive.
Oh, I like this theory.
I think it's funny because I think we will be right with something, but also we make so many predictions. Like, if you're just throwing shit at a wall, something's gonna stick.
Yes. Isn't that a good reason to follow this podcast?
So yeah, if you want to see what shit sticks to the wall, keep on listening to Getting Fade.
Follow us on Instagram to see the memes of Lukas creating his conspiracy board.
At Getting Fade Pod.
You can also slide in our DMs, but please don't send any spoilers so we can keep on making this podcast.
But you can share wild theories with us.
Yes.
And maybe leave a rating and review on your podcasting app. Maybe 5 stars if you like the podcast. If you don't like the podcast,
just don't leave a review.
And tell your mom, because as of now, this book is very family friendly.
Yes.
Yeah. If you don't like the podcast, you can reach out to us and share your thoughts. Why don't you like it? What can we improve on? We like to have some feedback, some constructive criticism. We want to get better at this.
Or you can recommend this podcast to your enemies if you don't like it. And if you like it, to your friends.
Just recommend it to someone.
On the streets. Go, hey, listen to Getting Fade. Bro.
And then they can join us the next time when we're
Getting Fade!